ranking the Conjuring Universe movies before the NUN 2. The James Wan created and led Conjuring Universe is awesome. The spooky stories that centre around Ed and Lorraine Warren have been thrilling, scaring and entertaining horror movie fans since The Conjuring in 2013. This September, the next instalment in the Conjuring Universe, The NUN 2, will be released. However, before that, we thought we would have some fun by looking at all 8 movies that have been in the Conjuring Universe so far and taking on the difficult task of ranking them. But thanks for not being scared and joining us today. Just like you, we're super excited for The NUN 2, which is what inspired us to make this list. Now, if you love spooky content and movies in general, please subscribe as we've got lots of fun, spooky, macabre and frightening content planned. Please note, this is our list. If you have different feelings about how these movies should be ranked, please leave your list in the comment section down below. We'd love to see how you guys rank these movies. Number 8, The NUN. Now, we first saw Valak, the nun, in The Conjuring 2, and what a frightening and scary demon this was. Fans were so taken with this character that they were excited to see the origins of this demon, and that's exactly what we got with 2018's The Nun. Directed by Colin Hardy, The Nun takes place in a 1952 where a church in Romania is under attack from an evil force. The Vatican sends Father Burke and Sister Irene to Romania to investigate what's going on. The whole concept of Valak and the evil hold that this entity has on this church is some very interesting stuff. The end sequence and the way that all this ties into the first Conjuring movie is pretty awesome too. However, apart from a few jump scares and the awesome look of the nun, the movie in general was a bit slow paced, not all that exciting, especially when you compare it to the other movies in the franchise. It's certainly not a bad movie, but it's not a great one either, hence why it's propping up our list here today. Now, do you feel we were a bit harsh on The Nun? Well, let us know your thoughts on this movie. We'd love to read them. Number 7, The Curse of La Llorona. Now, out of all the movies in the Conjuring Universe, The Curse of La Llorona is the one that people most often forget. Released in 2019 and directed by Michael Chavez, The Curse of La Llorona is set in the early 1970s and is about a woman called Anna who works as a social worker. Now, she's investigating a local family whose children have not been attending school, and she finds the kids locked in a cupboard with their mother acting strange, and eventually the children wind up dead. Now, it turns out there's an evil curse where a spirit called La Llorona, who lost her children hundreds of years ago, takes other people's children in revenge. Anna has the curse put on her, and La Llorona is now stalking her children. This leads her to Father Perez, who is in the first Annabelle movie and is the link for this to be part of the Conjuring Universe. He gets her in touch with a more unorthodox former priest called Rafael Olvera, who helps her fight the curse. The Curse of La Llorona is a fun and spooky ghost story, and one that's far better than people give it credit for. But what are your thoughts on The Curse of La Llorona? Do you think it's right this is even classed as part of the Conjuring Universe? Be sure to sound off about it in the comment section below. Number 6, Annabelle. The second movie in the Conjuring Universe is 2014's Annabelle, which was directed by John R. Leonetti. Now, ever since we saw the demonically possessed doll Annabelle in the original Conjuring movie, fans were obsessed with this creepy doll. This is actually a prequel to that first Conjuring movie. Taking place in 1967, Annabelle is about a young married couple called John and Mia who are expecting their first child. They're nice people and they live in a good neighbourhood until one night their next door neighbours are brutally murdered by an evil cult, one of which is their daughter. They end up in John and Mia's house and summon a demonic entity into the newly bought porcelain doll that John gave to Mia as a gift. And this leads us to the creepy possessed Annabelle that we all know and love as John and Mia try to figure out what's going on and what they can do to stop it. Now, what's so great about Annabelle is that it's a movie that doesn't waste any time. This gets straight to the possession and Mia is tormented by this demon. It's interesting that the demon has a reason for doing this, as it wants a soul, but the soul has to be given to it. There are some scary moments here, such as when we actually see the demon on the stairs as it's chasing Mia. While this is the lowest ranked Annabelle movie on our list, it's still a fun and scary time. Do you think that's right? The first Annabelle movie lived up to the hype? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Number 5. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Next up, we have the third actual Conjuring movie, 2021's The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which was directed by Michael Chavez and not James Wan, who directed the first two. We have another story here that's actually based on true events. Set in the early 80s, Ed and Lorraine Warren are leading an exorcism of a young boy called Daniel, whose family has just moved into a new house. They rid Daniel of the demon, but the Warrens feel like there's something wrong. However, Ed is injured and knocked out. The demon, it turns out, was not fully banished, and instead a young man called Arn, who's the boyfriend of Daniel's sister, allows it to enter him so that Daniel is saved. Now, Ed realizes this too late, and the demon causes Daniel to commit a horrific murder. So what's so cool about The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is that on one hand we have this young man called Arn that admits to committing the murder, but he insists that he's possessed, so we have a kind of crime drama in this regard. However, the best part about this movie is the summoning of this demon and the secrets and lies that are around the person who's done so. It's great stuff, and as well as being scary and furthering the legend of Ed and Lorraine Warren, this movie keeps you on the edge of your seat, trying to guess what this demon really wants and who's summoned it. So what are your thoughts on the third actual Conjuring movie? Do you think it was as good as the second one, or was something missing here? Number 4, Annabelle Creation. The first Annabelle sequel was 2017's Annabelle Creation. David F. Sandberg would handle directing duties for this one. Now, Annabelle by this point had become a bit of a pop culture icon, and was what most people thought of when they thought of the Conjuring universe. This time we go all the way back to the 40s and 50s. We have a doll maker called Samuel, his wife Esther, and their daughter Bee. Now, Bee ends up killed in a tragic accident, and Samuel and Esther are filled with grief. They think the spirit of their daughter has returned to them as they start to see her around the home, and the spirit asks them if it can move into the body of the doll, of course being Annabelle. Well, wouldn't you know it, this doll is not actually the spirit of their daughter, but a demonic entity that brutally disfigures Esther before they're able to lock the doll away. Fast forward a decade or so later, and a group of girls of different ages from an orphanage are going to be moving into the house for a while. Two of the younger girls start to notice strange things, and in no time at all, this demonic entity has its eyes on possessing one of the young girls instead of the doll. Now, Annabelle Creation is a very fun movie. It's got some really tense and scary moments. I mean, in many ways, this movie actually overachieves, as before this there was a real mystique about Annabelle, almost too much to live up to, but this movie manages to tell a fun and solid origin story. And were you happy with the origin story of Annabelle that was told here? We'd love to know more. Maybe you liked it, or maybe you didn't like it. Let us know. Number 3, The Conjuring 2. James Wan was in charge once again for The Conjuring 2, which was released in 2016. Now, this is based on a true ghost story from England that occurred in the 70s. However, something really neat is that at the start of this movie is Ed and Lorraine investigating the Amityville haunting. Here, Lorraine gets a vision of Ed being brutally killed, and she sees it as a warning from the other side about them interfering with dark forces. However, at the end of the day, Ed and Lorraine Warren are all about helping people. And when they hear about a family in London that are being terrorized by a ghost, they head over there to help. Now, many people think this is a hoax, and even the Warrens are not fully convinced, and there are a few occasions where they straight up just do not believe. However, this is a very sinister case, and this is where we meet the demon Valek for the first time. This is such a creepy and scary movie, one that really does send shivers down your spine, as Valek feels just like such a dangerous foe. The Conjuring 2 also adds a lot of depth to the overall Conjuring universe, and we certainly would not have the Nun 2 about to be released without this movie here. There are some people who say this is their favourite movie in the Conjuring universe, and we can see why. And while we'd love to hear your thoughts on the Conjuring 2, we'd also love to know your opinions on the actual real case of the haunting. If you feel like there's some truth here, or was it all a big hoax? Number 2, Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home was released in 2019, and it was the directorial debut for Gary Doberman, who also had a hand in writing the script for the movie. Fun is the best way to describe Annabelle Comes Home. Well, fun and terrifying. Taking place in either the late 60s or early 70s, depending on who you ask, Ed and Lorraine Warren are about to go away for a day or two to investigate a case. They're leaving their daughter Judy with a babysitter called Mary Ellen, who the Warrens trust. But Mary Ellen's friend Daniela shows up and lets out Annabelle and a few other spirits that the Warrens have caged up in their supernatural den. Annabelle Comes Home is such a fun movie. It's a great start where we get a good indication of just how evil and powerful Annabelle is. Judy, the Warrens' daughter, is a great character in her own right, with her own supernatural abilities, and the two teenage girls, Mary Ellen and Daniela, as well as Bob, or Bob's got balls if you prefer, they're great and likeable characters too. This is a haunted house style movie with all kinds of scary things, such as an invisible werewolf-like beast and an evil ferryman too. Yet it manages to have a lot of heart as well, such as the stuff with Judy feeling alone because of her powers and Daniela's desperate and heartbreaking missing of her father. It moves at 100 miles an hour, and it's the perfect movie if you're in the mood for some fun scares. With Judy being such a huge part of this, would you like to see her as a main character in future Conjuring movies? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. Now, number 1, The Conjuring. Okay, so we know that this is super predictable, but our number 1 spot is going to the movie that started it all, and that's 2013's The Conjuring. James Wan is awesome, and with stuff like this, Insidious, the criminally underrated Dead Silence, and of course, Saw. I mean, he knows how to make us feel uneasy. Taking place in 1971, we have a large family that thinks they've pretty much won the lottery, as they're able to buy a massive house for a rather suspiciously low price. Well, it doesn't take long to realise that the house is a bit of a fixer-upper. You know, the usual stuff: leaky pipes, creaky floorboards, and an evil entity that possesses the mother, Carolyn. Carolyn realises that there is evil in the house, but she's unaware that she's actually possessed. So she finds Ed and Lorraine Warren, who take a liking to her and want to help her and her family get rid of this evil spirit. Turns out, this place is haunted by a Satan-worshipping woman that claims this land is hers and will do anything to keep it that way. Now, this movie has some great jump scares. I mean, the clapping game for one. However, it also sends a shiver down your spine with just how creepy and unsettling it all is. It's a possession movie at its core, but it also has a lot of haunted house vibe about it, in the way that the evil entity messes with the family. It not only introduces us to the Warrens, but it also makes us really like them too. It's hard to imagine that the series would still be going to this day if this first movie was just not as good as it was. So there you have it. That's our thoughts on how the Conjuring Universe movies should be ranked, but we do wonder where the Nun 2 will land on our list when it's released soon. So thanks for joining us today, and we'd love to see how you'd rank the Conjuring movies in your own list in the comments section. Also, we'd love to know how excited you are for the Nun 2 as well. Thanks again, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more horror related content.